Hey guys, Diwali Lama here. So in this video, I'm going to show you essentially how to composite a sky onto a foreground during blue hour. So as you can see here, I have a foreground that's a blue hour foreground, and I have a sky here that I took a separate shot with of the Milky Way. So essentially, um, I was in quite a quandary because they closed the gate to this place at about 7 p.m. So there was no conceivable way that I could shoot the Milky Way here. So, you know, I improvised and I added a sky to my foreground here. So it's a common practice. There's a lot of controversy around, you know, is it the right thing to do? There's a lot of purists who are against it. I myself, I don't care. I will probably never go back here, so I want to capture the shots as many people have without spending as much time going back to the same old spots. So without further ado, I'm going to begin. So essentially, if you want to remove um, the foreground sky and add a night sky into your photograph, you'll grab the lasso tool. Um, what it essentially does lets you select for a certain region of your sky and replace with the background. In which case, in this sense, it would be the starry sky I have stacked behind it. So it's a pretty straightforward process. Usually works really well if you have a sharp outline like a mountain range or a very defined skyline. Here I got lucky. I put the lasso on and it looks pretty accurate. So what I'm going to do now is essentially use the eraser tool, which is right here, and erase. And voila, you have a Milky Way sky above a foreground from blue hour. So I'll go ahead and deselect here. And you can see how precise and great that looks. There is still some sharp edges here, so what you'll want to do, and what I'll do after I crop this, and you have the Milky Way shot here. I really don't like how sharp that horizon is, so what I'll often do, and other people often do, is they'll duplicate the the actual foreground and create a gradient. So here, I'll do it right here. So what you'll do is duplicate the layer, press OK. You'll go to the actual layer. You'll use the gradient tool here, and it's usually hit or miss with me. I don't often have to do this, but when I do, I just do a little trial and error and see how it works. Just something that looks natural. That looks a little more natural. That works. So you'll see here is the actual edges look like there's city lights behind them. So what I typically like to do after I do this is, I'll export as, and I'll bring it back into Photoshop after so I can edit better. It's taking a while. Save as a JPEG. Look how grainy it looks. That's pretty crazy. Export. And let me drag it back in. So now you actually have the whole image here. I didn't do as good of a job as I'd like. This is just a quick tutorial, but what you'll want to do is make sure that these lines here that define the edges are washed out and erased out as well. So yeah, I mean, that looks like a pretty clean image. What I usually do now is I'll go ahead and go to noise, dust and scratches. It'll clean up the image. I'll add a little more of a dreamy look to it, as you can see here. It's up to personal preference, but that works. I might do a little auto color just to screw around with it, maybe some auto contrast. These are just baselines for what a typical person would do if they're trying to edit. So you can mess around with all kinds of different settings to get the best shot you want. But as you can see here, the foreground blends in really well with the sky. You can't even tell that this is a composited photograph unless you're doing this yourself, or if you're really well versed in Photoshop. The average person wouldn't know. So that's kind of the benefit of not capturing Milky Way and not having to go back um, to certain spots because you had adverse conditions or circumstances like mine. Um, so yeah, that's it.